Am I the asshole here for secretly cheating on our vegetarian diet that my wife made our family do? I want to start by saying I, 38 male, love my family and my wife, 35 female, and I've never been the type to do anything like this before. That's what they all say, buddy. 12 months ago, my wife converted to a new religion, which included her giving up eating meat. The whole family, me and our 2 young boys, were supportive of this, and we held a vegetarian-only dinner that night as a little sign of support. Life continues for another around 8 months, basically unchanged. The boys and I eat meat, and my wife doesn't. However, things start to change around that 8 to 10 month mark. I can't remember exactly. Basically, along with not eating meat, my wife now no longer wanted to be around it. This wasn't the only thing. Things continued to progress. Basically, my wife started to replace things in the house with substitutes. First, the pork in the house was swapped out for jackfruit. Eggs were swapped out for substitutes like Just Egg. Shirts were only bought from clean brands like plant-based clothing, and deodorants were swapped out for deodorant pills like Go Scentless. You get the idea. To say this was creating a rift would be an understatement, and eventually I brought up to our wife that again, while we 100% support her in her decisions around these things, I didn't think that it should change things for the boys and me, unless of course they wanted it. Wait, who's our wife? What? Wife argued that her values have changed, and that being around some of this stuff was really hard for her, and wanted us to support her. For the next 2 to 3 months, the house was a place of pretty high tension. It had gotten so bad that the boys have friends bringing the meat from their houses since it was now completely gone from ours. Anyway, about a week ago, my wife went away on a few days long business trip, meaning I was watching the boys Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Basically, and I'm a bit ashamed to type this out, the boys and I mostly ate meat basically every chance we got. This was all fine and dandy. The boys and I had a great time, until my wife returned home and it somehow slipped out what we had done. I have never seen her so disappointed in us. After putting the boys to bed, we argued for hours about how I was setting a poor example for the boys, that I should respect the decisions made by my wife, even if they are tough and inconvenient. It's hard to argue back, because I can see her side, but it boils down simply to just I don't want to be vegetarian and vegan, and neither do the boys. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Wary Scientist says, not the asshole. She said she got rid of it because she couldn't be around it. Well, she wasn't around it. Also, you guys did not convert to her religion, so she can't expect that you follow it. I'm not really sure what the problem is when she wasn't home. Agree. I think if she cooks meals for the whole family, then they are leaving the menu planning up to her. However, she was not home at that time. What the hell religion is this, by the way? Changing their shirts and deodorant? Sounds like a cult. Not the asshole. Your wife is the asshole for forcing her family to follow the same beliefs as she does. You can't control what other people do around you. This should be a unanimous decision between the two of you, and your kids are old enough to choose for themselves. Completely agree with that. There are no unanimous decisions. It is a 2 yes, 1 no situation. For me personally, I don't care if our wife, quote unquote, in this situation, wanted everything to change. If it's not a 2 yes, then it's a no. We can discuss this. We can find a suitable middle ground in this arrangement that is comfortable for everyone, but you're not going to go around making demands like that. That is ludicrous. And I'm not OP. I've not dealt with situations like this before, but I do think it's insane that he allowed it to go this far. It seems like he just didn't want the confrontation. He just didn't want the fight, so he allowed her to dominate the entire family, and she created an environment that everyone hated. She herself wasn't even happy with it because they played by her rules, they had meat when she's gone, and that's not enough either. There is something seriously wrong with her being so dominating and not allowing others to do what they want in that household. But at the same time, there is less blame on OP, but there is still some, for him allowing it to go this far, recognizing that that's not a healthy relationship dynamic and that he should have put further solid boundaries in place. Both of these people have let their children down, her much more so, but I don't think it's impossible to come back from this, and I don't think OP is the asshole for secretly cheating on the vegetarian diet. I think he needs to grow a backbone and start putting in healthy boundaries that undo a lot of the damage that she has caused. Otherwise, it might be time to say goodbye to our wife if she refuses to see reason. And now, on to the update. I want to thank everyone again for your help. My wife and I sat down and read through most of the top ones, and it helped her see some of the stuff that we were dealing with. After my/our post went crazy, me and the wife basically sat down and tried to talk everything out, using the comments as a guide. Some were pretty mean though. After hours and hours of debating, and about a week of going back and forth, the final place that we came to is somewhat hard to put into written words, but basically, the boys should be able to live how they want, as they didn't make a decision to be a part of this family. But me, have chosen to be a part of this family, and be with my wife. And if I can't meet my wife and her values, I should decide if I actually want to continue to be a part of this family. So basically, the boys are off the hook until they get a bit older and are able to make decisions at this level on their own, but in order to continue being with my wife, I need to sacrifice and meet her where her values are. I know Reddit doesn't want to hear this, but I'm willing to make a sacrifice like this to 1. Keep my family together, and 2. Allow the boys to have their freedom. When I wrote the original post, all I cared about was my boys' ability to choose their own lifestyle, whether that be the one we have or some crazy lifestyle that they want. And I think I've gotten us to that place now. I don't use Reddit much, but I'll check back within a month or 2 and let everyone know how we're doing. But I think we've finally found a path forward. Am I the asshole here for sacrificing at this level to keep my family together? In the comments, Cthulhu LaRue says, "Not the asshole for making the sacrifice, but this is the slope that you're starting on. She's going to need you to keep meeting her values. You say, I've chosen to be a part of this family and be with my wife, and if I can't meet my wife and her values, I should decide if I actually want to continue to be a part of this family. This argument is faulty. You didn't choose to be part of this family. You made this family with her on terms that you both agreed on. She unilaterally changed some of those terms and expects you to still abide by your original terms. That's bullshit. You need to renegotiate, if anything. As for you choosing to be a part of the family, so did she. If her values aren't the same as yours, then she's the one choosing not to be in this relationship. Dude, you just let her gaslight you into thinking you're responsible for failing the relationship. You're the asshole for sucking everything down. Also, I read this as basically saying the boys will be required to decide if they want to continue to be a part of the family too when they get a bit older. All Dad has done here, at best, is defer the situation for his son for a few years. I don't see any way this doesn't end in divorce. He's either getting divorced now, or going to let the resentment build until he snaps and then gets a divorce. This will be one of those divorces that happens when the last kid graduates high school. Oh god, those are the worst. My friend's parents did that, and he knew they hated each other. He actually threw an about effing time party because he was so sick of the obvious tension. They were Pikachu's shocked face, he knew. I refuse to believe that people are such master manipulators that they can gaslight you into situations like this. Like, man, that is such broken, flawed logic that she used on him, and he just took it hook, line, and sinker. Didn't even question her on it. It looks like, yeah, you know what? Let's let the boys be forced into this stupid cult ideology in the future as well, and make them choose either doing it or cutting you out of their life completely. That's a normal thing that everyone does. Wow. Thank you, wife, for being the voice of reason in this situation, and now I either have to divorce you or join the cult as well. Wow, this is an incredibly normal and cool thing that I'm willing to accept and not point out. And I agree. Yeah, I'm the one that broke the agreement that we started this relationship on. Yes, I am the asshole. Not you continuously moving the goalposts and striking everyone over the head for not following you every time you move a goalpost. No, you, wife, are the normal person here. It just infuriates me that situations like this continue to happen. I feel like we need to hand people like a guidebook of some sort to be like, here is what normal relationships look like. Here is what normal behavior looks like. If they stray from this path, they better have damn good reason for that. And if they don't have damn good reason for it, you call that bullshit out to its face and you leave if the bullshit doesn't change. Like at this point, she's lost her goddamn mind. Divorce that woman. Divorce her. Get away from it. Whoever she was before is gone. There is no reason to stay in this relationship, and don't subject your children to it. Get the hell out of Dodge and stay away from her. Our next post is by user 10-Year Perspective, and it's titled, My 35 female, husband 36 male, is burned out and can't work in his normally high-paying field. I'm resenting having to go back to work to support us. Help. This is part genuine request for perspective and opinions, and part getting it off my chest. To sum up, my husband and I have been married for 10 years. We have a good marriage and have never faced any truly difficult times. It'll be difficult to explain everything that goes into this, but I'm happy to expound in the comments. Basically, the last decade has largely been focused on achieving financial independence. I had never been a very business-oriented person until I met my husband. He's extremely entrepreneurial, and his passion for it is catching. We have run our own businesses together and separately throughout our marriage. The goal has always been to make enough money on location-independent businesses so that we can live freely. Not necessarily retire, but have more freedom. And because of his encouragement, I'm now on a career path that could easily result in that. In 10 years, we have moved 25 times, all because better opportunities have presented themselves or current opportunities have dried up. We are now facing number 26, with number 27 not far away, because number 26 doesn't look like that good of a prospect. Without giving away details, my business fluctuates greatly. I've had months where I pull in mid-5 figures and long stretches of a few hundred. My career outside of this is food service with a very definite wage ceiling. My husband's career, quote-unquote, is professional, and he can easily find a 6-figure salary position. His current online business currently brings in low 4 figures. We have always relied on his going back to work when money runs low. He's in high demand. He can practically snap his fingers and get a job, but I cannot. Here's the conflict, and where I'll try to eliminate as much of my bias as possible. My husband is completely burnt out. He physically and emotionally can't deal with the stress of going to work right now. He has supported me through the last couple of years when my income has been low. I've always been aware of my financial contribution and make up for it by carrying the grand majority of the household chores, even when I was working 60+ hours as a manager and pulling in half of his wage. But as our savings are dwindling, it's looking more and more like I'll have to get a job. That means pushing my business to the back burner, working a physically demanding job, all for a quarter of the pay that he could get. I'm not one to spend money. We didn't have a wedding. We bought my wedding band 3 years after we got married. I cut my own hair. I work from home in sweatpants. It's not as though I've forced him to work jobs that he hates in order to provide me with an extravagant lifestyle. I've worked shit jobs to help provide for us in the past, and even when my business isn't earning a ton, I still put in 50+ hours a week. I'm craving stability. Not performance, just the feeling that I can unpack our boxes and not feel like I should save them in a closet, knowing that in 6 to 9 months I'll need them again. We've been child-free for years, but the last couple years, the topic has been coming up more and more. Yet I feel it's impossible to even discuss the idea of starting a family in the face of such uncertainty. I miss my cats. They're living with my parents overseas. I want a fish tank and a place to hang pictures. He says, if you want those things, then make them happen. Which, fair enough. I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life that I want. However, it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of, What would I do in this situation if I were single? How would I support myself? And I start to feel resentful. I'm not single, I'm married. And not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support us. I desperately want him to find what it is he's meant to do. I don't care about the money or the dreams of financial independence if it means he's miserable trying to get there. He's been trying to work out which direction to change to for the past year and has yet to come up with anything solid. I know it's all about give and take, but I can't help but feel, I don't know, I don't have the words, and I'm at a complete loss as to how we resolve this. By the way, we've talked about all of this almost 2,000 times already. There is nothing written here he hasn't heard before. Edit. I appreciate all the comments and opinions. This got a lot more response than I expected. Just a few things. It's difficult to sum up an entire life in a few hundred words. The moves have been for varied, and obviously with 25 of them, multiple reasons. Some were because my husband was offered a good job, others were to be nearer family. I've been pursuing my side business for the last 3.5 years. The 7 prior to that, I was in full-time employment, sometimes working a full-time job, while also helping to run our own business. He has not financially supported me for 10 years. I'm not sure where people got MLM from, but I'm in a creative field. As I said, I don't want to reveal details, but I create products and then sell them online. We are not scam artists, nor do we leave town because people are catching on to our pyramid scheme. As far as financials go, again, it's impossible to sum up 10 years of income, but we go through feast and famine periods, times when money is flowing in, and times when we live off what we've earned. We never live outside our means, and when money is good, we put thousands a month away to prepare for the downtimes. It's not a typical way of living, so I understand that it's not easily relatable. In the comments, it sounds like he is finally burnt out from being the one in the relationship to be the financial rock. That is exhausting after a while. It's great that it's allowed you the freedom to try your own hand at a myriad of other things, but it's put a lot of pressure on him. Quote, "It looks like I'll have to put my business on hold and go back to work." That is a very telling statement. Your business hasn't provided the work that you need to contribute equally. His has. It looks like it's time for you to step up and do the work, and not the business for now. I think you need to just suck it up and work for now and get him into counseling. Then you two really need to sit down and figure out a different way to live. You've tried this path for 10 years and it's not working. You need to figure out a way to have stability as a couple that doesn't burn one or the other of you out. See a career counselor and a financial counselor. And OP got downvoted and said, "I readily hold my hands up and say I have a spoiled streak." I guess it would be a lot easier for me to accept going back to work if he had an idea, an inkling, of what his next steps would be. But maybe that's just it. His job right now is to get better. OP clarifies again. I know it isn't clear in my original post, but it's not like I'm sitting around doing nothing all day. I easily put in more work on my business than he does on his, plus take care of the domestic stuff. I'd like to think that there is more to the balance of a relationship than financial contribution. And there have been times that I have financially supported us. It hasn't always been one-sided. I work hard to try and change it, but I guess the reality is, it isn't changing right away. Another commenter says, "So you both have entrepreneurial side businesses and full-time jobs, plus moving every 3 to 6 months for the last 10 years? That would burn anybody out. I know financial independence is a dream, but it seems like if you both put down roots, maybe for a specified time like 4 years, and found stability, burnout wouldn't be a factor. Financially and emotionally, starting over takes a toll." And OP replies, "We go back and forth when it comes to the full-time employment. Because of his high salary and short lifespan when working, it's been more like 6 months on, several months off, but there is always a side business. Always, lol." On OP's savings, OP clarifies, "When I say savings are dwindling, there is a lump of money in the savings account that we never, ever touch and treat as the rock bottom. We never get close to that amount, so in my mind, what we have to live off in savings is running out. When we budget, we don't feel like we're doing well unless we're able to put money away at the end of the month. After 10 years of working, we are definitely not where either of us would like to be. That's not to say the experiences and ups and downs weren't worth it. I honestly don't think it's in my husband to buckle down with a 9-to-5 job and squirrel away money for retirement. I've always been happy to help him pursue his goals of owning and running his own businesses because I have faith in him. It's clear after talking through this on here, we're at a fork in the road. From my perspective, in the way that OP has given us this information, this reads like the good times happen when he's working and has full-time employment, and then things crash when he's not in full-time employment. And it's just been like a cycle of that, as well as moving every 3 to 6 months for 10 years. It's obvious that this has run its course to me. I don't think this is a sustainable dynamic for the both of them to continue. Something needs to change in that relationship, or he's never going to bounce back, and they're going to hit that rock bottom cash pile, and that is going to dry up. I think it's really weird that she would say, I would be happy with the dynamic if I knew there was an end goal for when he's going to get his ass back to work. That's how I read that statement. It's more like, well, I have to know he's getting back to work eventually and the burnout is going to end. Oh my God. Honey, that's not how burnout works. He may never be able to come back to full-time work again, depending on his mental state and his physical state, when the time ever comes, if it does. I say, get your ass some stability, get back to a place where you can start laying down those roots like you want, and figure your life out together. This is not okay. And now, onto the update post 1. So I'm writing partly to sort all this out of my head, and partly for outside perspectives. I don't even know what to think anymore. Again, I'm happy to explain any details that need fleshing out, if it helps. I'll try to be concise, and I truly appreciate your reading. 9 months ago, I posted asking for help about my frustration with going back to work after my husband burned out in his career. Previous post in my history. For the sake of anonymity, I tried to be vague with the details, and many thought that our work was on the dodgy side. I don't care about keeping it anonymous. All these factors are relevant. I'm an author. I self-publish books and made a decent living doing it for several years. My husband is a software developer and mainly buys existing online companies and fixes them up to sell. When that's not working, he tries to work a normal 9-to-5, but typically lasts no more than 6 months. His last attempt was 1 day. My career before this was in the food industry, which means crap pay, long hours, and very sore feet. I got a job that pays 95% of the bills. The rest is covered by savings. Yeah, I'd rather be working for myself, but I like it. I'm good at it. It's the first time I actually enjoy going to work. For the last few months, I've been slowly changing, and it feels like my husband and I are drifting apart. At first, I thought it was a natural phase. Things will definitely feel different compared to working under the same roof all day and night, but now, I don't know. From the previous thread, he says if you want those things, then make them happen. Which, fair enough, I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life I want. However, it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of, what would I do in this situation if I was single? How would I support myself? And I start to feel resentful. I'm not single, I'm married, and not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support both of us. I am making enough money to support us, and it feels good. It's given me confidence in a way that I haven't had before, but it's also made something glaringly obvious in our relationship. We disagree on just about everything, and we have very little in common. I'm happy to work on my writing on the side while I work. He thinks I've given up on our dream and have settled for a world that he is loath to spend time in, the 9-to-5, Monday to Friday world. He sold his business and is still figuring out what he wants to do next. I want to buy a flat in the city. He wants to move to the country or use our savings to travel or live remotely. I want to settle for a while and make friends. He thinks there's plenty of time for that in the future. I want to make our home cozy and put up decorations like photos and artwork, and while he likes it, he thinks of it all as just pointless stuff that we shouldn't waste money on. I could go on, but you get it. It feels like literally everything I like, he hates. I've realized that most of the moves, most of the big decisions, were things I went along with. I'm not saying he bullied me or anything, just that I didn't feel too strongly one way or the other, so I tended to go with what he wanted. Of course, we talked about it, but it rarely was me pulling in the bulk of the income, so I didn't feel like I had much of a say. Now I feel strongly about a life direction and have the ability to make it happen, and I feel guilty? He says I've changed, that he's the same as he's been, wants the same things he's always wanted, that this is me altering the situation, which I agree with. But it's not like it's this massive bait and switch plan. Our entire marriage, I've talked about settling down. I'm rambling. Here's the way that I see it. We both love each other and genuinely want to make the other happy, which is why over 10 years, we've both compromised on choices that go against what we individually want. He goes to work for a little while so that I can have a semi-stable home. I bounce around the world with him so he can discover himself and his career. But our tolerance for those periods have become too short to manage. He physically can't work for another person. I want to scream when I think about packing up my stuff and starting over again. Have we just spent so much time of our marriage being distracted by the exciting newness of moving and pushing for financial independence that we didn't notice how little we have in common otherwise? I can't help but feel like this is on me. Not my fault per se, but it's on my shoulders. I'm the one rocking the status quo, and if I want things to balance out, it's up to me to adjust my expectations. In the comments, quoting some of OP's post, they say, "These seem like fundamental incompatibilities." And OP says, "They really do, don't they?" They do, love. This is a really unconventional way to look at it, but if you met your husband now as a new relationship, would you be excited about the guy? Interested? Would he make you laugh and make your coffee just the way you like it? I'm not saying that we should all hold our partners to the standards of the honeymoon stage of a relationship, but we should be in a relationship where we at least are attracted to each other and have basic values and preferences that are compatible. P.S. I think it's really cool that you have a job that you enjoy and you're a writer. OP says, "Thank you. I consider myself incredibly lucky to have both. I've often posed a question to myself. Would we get together now as a new relationship? I think I would still adore his passions and perspectives on life. They're intoxicating. He's a sweet guy, always looking out for me, and remembers the little things that I like. He has a habit of giving me a kiss when he leaves the room, even if he's just going away for a half hour. Obviously, I could go on. I really think we need to go talk to someone professionally. Thank you for reading. Hug." And now, onto the second update, posted 6.5 years later, more than 7 from the original post. I was recently cleaning out my bookmarks, and I found this old throwaway, and obviously the 2 posts that I made with it. I'm not sure why now, but I feel compelled to write a follow-up. Maybe it'll give people the bravery to change, or at least an example of how sticking with what you know isn't always the best choice. An obviously very long story short, with the help of those posts and a lot of long nights of thinking, I left my husband. In fact, it took him going away for a long weekend to realize how much happier and at peace I felt without him around. At first, the split was amicable, but looking back, I think he was just waiting for me to come rushing back to him once I realized my mistake. When that didn't happen, and he could see that I was actually serious about building a new life for myself, a switch flipped. We only spoke when he needed something from me, and eventually that stopped too. Enough about him. I'm now 42, happier and healthier, and more satisfied than I've been my whole life. I picked me, and that was the best choice I could have ever made. I lived alone for the first time, and my God, the peace of having my own space, unrivaled. I ended up staying in that apartment for 5 years, not a moving box in sight. I put art on the walls. I knew my neighbors. I made a home. I grew my career and went back to school. I made friends and I built a little community. I've done a ton of therapy, and I realized that the abusive patterns my parents created in my childhood were just repeating with my ex. I fell in love. A real love. A supportive love that encourages growth and security. I'm doing new work. Work that helps people and is so much more than just chasing money. All of those things have created a life that is more rewarding than I ever thought possible for myself. I've gone through some really shitty times too. Illness, cancer scares, deaths, loss, but I have no idea how I would have come out the other side without the community that I'd built around me. Even something as simple as people at your local coffee shop recognizing you is a comfort after feeling adrift and alone for so long. Anyway, if I were to respond to myself from 7 years ago, this is what I would say. Leave the loser. He doesn't care about you. He never did. He only cares about what you can do for him, and now that you aren't serving him, well, just go. You are capable of doing difficult things, and you are worthy of the work that it takes to accomplish them. Trust your abilities, trust your gut. It's been screaming at you for years now, honey. Life can be so much more than you've experienced, but you have to make it happen for yourself. In the comments, Engineering Queen says, I was expecting something like he was an on-site construction project manager, so they had to move for every building he worked on. I was not expecting that he was a software developer who hated work. I could tell in the first post that she was being delusional about just how financially independent they were. They worked 3 times as hard to stay afloat rather than putting in 40 hours a week and getting some breathing room. I was genuinely surprised that he was a software developer and they weren't, well, more afloat, or at least able to do the work remotely so they could settle for several years in some cheap cost of living city or country. 26 moves in 10 years seems abnormally high given the main income earners' work. Yeah, there were just so many glaringly obvious red flags, I want to say, that if you had a good support network around you, I would hope those people in your life go, hey, this is insane. None of this is normal, and you are burning yourselves out for no good reason other than keeping this man happy, fulfilling whatever desire and fantasy he wants. And he is being enabled by you, and you are also being enabled by him, and this is a toxic, cyclical dynamic that can never end well. Please step back for a second and realize how harmful this is for the both of you. I trust that I have a support network in my life that can and will help me out when a situation like this arises, but it makes sense that in OP's childhood, she was conditioned to accept things like this, and it kind of became normalized for her, so that no big relationship problems in her mind happened until that impasse they found themselves at. When I think people that haven't experienced the kind of conditioning that she has would see this from the onset and be like, no, this in itself, moving and doing this and chasing money, that's a relationship challenge. This is not acceptable. I want a stable and happy life with friends and people that I love and cherish. I don't want to be bouncing around the world constantly for no good reason. I'm glad that OP got out of there. I do hope that this is a cautionary tale for anyone that could potentially be in a similar situation to OP's. I hope that love does not find you, and if it does, I hope you get out of there. Otherwise, thank you for the story, OP, and I'm glad that you came back to update us all these years later. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.